The rejection email hit Marcus Chen like a physical blow. After 6 rounds of interviews, countless hours of preparation, and a final presentation he'd stayed up 3 nights perfecting, Hartwell Industries had chosen someone else, the position that would have changed everything. Cleared his mother's medical debt, moved them out of their cramped apartment, given him the fresh start he desperately needed had slipped through his fingers. And the worst part? He knew exactly why. 3 days earlier, Marcus had been standing outside Hartwell's gleaming downtown headquarters, straightening his tie one last time before his final interview. The autumn wind whipped through the Chicago streets, carrying with it the metallic scent of approaching rain. He'd arrived 45 minutes early, as always, using the extra time to review his notes on a bench across the street. This was it. Everything he'd worked for since dropping out of college to care for his sick mother, every overnight shift at the warehouse, every online certification completed on his phone. During lunch breaks, it had all led to this moment. That's when he heard the scream. A young woman, maybe 23 or 24, was backing away from a man who'd grabbed her purse. She stumbled in her heels, falling hard onto the concrete. The thief yanked the bag and she refused to let go, being dragged several feet as pedestrians scattered or simply stared. The man raised his hand, and Marcus didn't think. He just moved. His interview folder went flying as he sprinted across the street. He tackled the thief from the side, and they crashed into a newspaper stand. Marcus had never been in a real fight before, and it showed. The man landed a solid punch to his ribs that made his vision blur, but Marcus held on, grappling until the thief finally abandoned the purse and took off running. Marcus collapsed against the wall, gasping, his dress shirt torn at the shoulder and blood trickling from his split lip. His knuckles were scraped raw, and he could already feel a bruise forming on his cheekbone. But the young woman had her purse. She rushed over, her eyes wide with concern and something else. Disbelief, maybe. "Oh my God, are you okay?" "You're bleeding. We need to call the police. An ambulance." "You saved." "I'm fine," Marcus managed, checking his watch. 20 minutes until his interview. His shirt was ruined. His face was a mess. But if he hurried to the bathroom, maybe he could salvage this. "Really, I'm okay. I just need to—" "You need to sit down," she insisted, pulling out her phone. "Please let me at least call someone. What you did was incredibly brave. Most people just walked past me." Marcus could hear the tremor in her voice, the delayed shock setting in. She'd been terrified. He took a breath, forcing himself to focus on her instead of his rapidly evaporating opportunity. "What's your name?" Sarah Hartwell." The name registered dimly, but he was too concerned about her shaking hands to make the connection. "Okay, Sarah, let's sit down for a minute. You're safe now. Do you need me to call anyone for you?" They sat on the bench, his bench, where his scattered notes now lay collecting dirt. Sarah was fighting back tears, her carefully applied makeup starting to run. Marcus found himself talking to her the way he'd talked to his mother during her bad days, calm and steady, keeping her grounded. He learned she'd just moved back to Chicago, that she'd been grabbing coffee before a meeting, that this city suddenly felt more dangerous than it had when she was growing up here. 20 minutes became 30. His interview slot came and went. Sarah called her driver, apologized profusely, and tried to press a business card into his hand. Marcus refused, finally interrupting her. "I'm really glad you're okay, but I have to go. I'm late for something important." He'd made it to Hartwell's lobby 37 minutes past his scheduled time, looking like he'd been in a bar fight. The receptionist's eyes had widened. His interviewer, Mr. Peterson from HR, had been less than impressed. "Mr. Chen, punctuality is one of our core values at Hartwell Industries." Marcus had tried to explain, the attack, helping someone, not realizing the time, but even to his own ears it sounded like an excuse. Peterson had allowed him to continue with the interview, but the damage was done. Marcus could see it in the man's tight smile, in the way he cut the interview short by 15 minutes, in the perfunctory handshake at the end. Now, staring at the rejection email, Marcus felt the full weight of his choice. He'd sacrificed his future for a stranger. His mother would need another surgery next year. Their landlord had already raised the rent twice. The warehouse had just cut overtime hours, and he'd thrown away his one chance to fix everything because he couldn't walk past someone in trouble. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. Marcus almost didn't answer. "Hello, is this Marcus Chen?" A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. Yes? This is Sarah Hartwell. From Monday? I know this might seem strange, but I'd really like to meet with you. Would you have time tomorrow afternoon? Say 2 o'clock at the Hartwell building? Marcus's heart sank further. She wanted to thank him properly, probably offer some money. He didn't want her charity. Look, Sarah, you don't owe me anything, really. I appreciate the call, but please. Something in her tone stopped him. It's important. I promise I won't take much of your time. Against his better judgment, he agreed. The next day, Marcus dressed in his backup interview outfit, though he wasn't sure why. The receptionist recognized him, her expression shifting from confusion to something else. Was that amusement? As she directed him to the top floor, the executive floor. Sarah met him at the elevator, and Marcus barely recognized her. Gone were the casual clothes from Monday. She wore a sharp navy suit, her hair pulled back. Every inch the polished professional. But her smile was warm and genuine. Marcus, thank you for coming. Please follow me. She led him through a maze of offices, past walls decorated with awards and photos of innovations that had shaped their industry. Finally, they stopped at a large corner office with floor-to-ceiling, windows overlooking the city. The nameplate beside the door read, Sarah Hartwell, CEO. Marcus's stomach dropped. You're the CEO. Sarah gestured for him to sit. I am. And before you ask, no. I didn't tell you on Monday because I was too shaken up to think clearly. And honestly, it was refreshing to be treated like a normal person instead of a name and title. But I need to apologize to you. Apologize? For what? Mr. Peterson rejected your application without my knowledge. I've spent the last 2 days reviewing your file, and Marcus, you're exactly what we need. Your project presentation was innovative. Your references are glowing, and your technical skills are outstanding. But more importantly, you have something that can't be taught. She leaned forward. When everyone else walked past me on that street, you ran toward danger. When you were bleeding and late for the most important interview of your life, you stayed to make sure a stranger was okay. That's the kind of character I want in this company. That's the kind of person I want to work with. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed up entirely. Sarah continued, I'm not offering you the position you interviewed for. That role has been filled. I'm offering you something better, a position on our executive development program. It's a 2-year track that will give you exposure to every department, mentorship from senior leadership, and a salary that... She slid a paper across the desk. The number made his head spin. Why? Marcus finally managed. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're the kind of person who runs toward trouble when others run away. I know you value integrity over opportunity. And I know that when you could have sold me a sob story about being a good Samaritan to save your interview, you simply apologized and tried to continue professionally. That's character, Marcus. That's what builds great companies. She paused. Also, I called the warehouse where you work. Your supervisor said you're the hardest worker he's ever seen. So yes, I know enough. Marcus thought of his mother, of the medical bills, of all the nights wondering if his sacrifices would ever pay off. He thought of that moment on the street when he'd made a choice without thinking, driven purely by the instinct to help another human being. And he realized that Sarah was right. It hadn't cost him his opportunity. It had revealed who he truly was to the one person who could recognize its value. When do I start? He asked, his voice cracking with emotion. Sarah smiled, extending her hand. How about Monday? And Marcus, don't ever apologize for being a good person. The world needs more people like you, and so does Hartwell Industries. As Marcus left the building that afternoon, walking past the spot where everything had changed, he understood something profound. He hadn't lost anything by helping Sarah. He'd actually won everything. Not despite his choice, but because of it. In a world that often rewarded ruthlessness and self-interest, sometimes the most radical thing you could do was simply be kind. And sometimes, just sometimes, that kindness came back to you in ways you never could have imagined.